Hi, today we're going to be celebrating the powerful female characters breaking norms and expectations in TV shows. I'm Zack, my group mates are Spencer and Citlali. So here's a brief presentation overview. I'm going to be discussing Carol Peletier from the show The Walking Dead. Spencer's going to be discussing the six fairies from the show The Winx Club. And Citlali's going to be discussing Betty Cooper from the show Riverdale. For those that don't know, the show The Walking Dead takes place in a modern day world after a zombie apocalypse destroys society as we know it. The show follows a number of lead roles and introduces many throughout the 11 seasons. When the show starts off, Carol Peltier does not come off as a strong female lead, let alone a lead character at all. She's defined by her role in a nuclear family as Sophia Peltier's mom and Ed's wife. The photo in the top left is of Ed dragging Carol away from a group of ladies because she was laughing and having fun. Her relationship with Ed is extremely abusive. You can see on all these slides that she does not smile and she looks scared, and she has very little hair. When the audience meets Carol, she exists to take care of her daughter and Ed. Her hair is short because Ed wants it to be. He does not want other men looking at her. Fortunately, Ed does get killed by a zombie at the end of season 1. Carol and her daughter stay with the main group for protection, and Carol turns all her attention towards her daughter. Carol has extremely strong maternal instincts, and she loves her daughter fiercely. She starts to let her hair grow back immediately after Ed's death. Both Sophia and Carol both Sophia and Carol are defined by their fear during this time, and they look towards the group for protection. This inevitably gets Sophia killed at the end of season 2, and this forever changes Carol. This is a turning point in Carol's life, and after a few episodes of grieving, she reemerges as something new. Until now, Carol was defined by her role as a woman, mother, and wife. She followed archaic stereotypes associated with each of those roles, such as being quiet, small, aversive, responsible for childcare, and husbandry. Here are a few quotes that I hope you see the shift in her mindset and identity as she emerges as a strong female-bodied leader in the show and good example for female viewers. We learned about strategic essentialism this semester. This refers to the intentional embrace and foregrounding of an identity ingredient as definitive to a group identity. There are two important characteristics of this relevant to Carol. The first is the so-called essential attributes of a group are defined by the group members themselves. And two, they do not deny that they are a group, but instead seek to control what it means to be part of that group. Carol does exactly this when she redefines herself by doing what it takes for her and her group to survive. She takes on new roles that empower her as well as the group. She learns to fight and use weapons to protect herself and the group. As time goes on, her hair continues to grow back and Carol grows as well. She shatters the pre-described gender roles that the old society and her abusive husband put on her, and she emerges as something new. She creates a new identity for herself. Throughout the show, Carol always has this strong maternal instinct that I discussed earlier. She cares and protects many children in a variety of ways throughout the 11th season, and eventually adopts a boy named Henry. She loves cooking, and her cookies are known throughout the community. Carol eventually becomes queen of another community, looking after and leading an even bigger group or family. Carol becomes a brave, caring, tough, resilient, smart, proud leader. The character Carol Peletier shows the viewer and society as a whole that as people we define and defy gender.
So now I'm going to talk about the show, The Winx Club, and this show focuses on the lives of six girls who are fairies, and each throughout each season, each of them go through they work together to fight main antagonists as well as go work through issues that they face themselves. In each of these images are from different seasons of the show, and you can see They evolve, they grow, they become older, and in the very bottom right is an image where they are in one of their most powerful fairy forms. Next slide, please. So this is a quote that I found from somebody who created a nonprofit organization, Mona Sabet, and her quote is, "Every time we push ourselves toward transformational change, we develop our own legacy. Effective change builds legends." This quote I felt heavily resonated with the fifth season of the Winx Club, because this was where the show took a massive change. It was picked up by Nickelodeon, um, and they recreated the way the characters looked. They uh, made them more. They made their personalities a lot more different. Uh, because as you can see in some of these images, which are all from the fifth season, they are a lot more. They show a lot more the boldness, a lot more determination, more bravery, and above all, uh, the fact that they are not afraid to get themselves into trouble, as and as you can see here in the very bottom photo, this is one of the main characters who is taking on the main antagonist of this season, and she is very much not afraid to get up in his face and take him down because of what he has done. He had used oil the from planet Earth to fuel his power, as well as turn his family and friends and his people into his own personal slave army. And so they are tasked with the Winx are tasked with taking him down, uh, just ending him for good, and restoring peace to the marine life of all their different worlds and Earth. And throughout this entire season, each character grows more. They grow more. They evolve more to the point where they are all their own leader for their world. Next slide.
How each one of them has broken norms and expectations, I will be discussing Betty Cooper. As previously mentioned, Betty Cooper is one of the many characters in the show Riverdale, and in the first few episodes, she is portrayed as a submissive young girl that obeys everything her parents say. Her mother wants her to be as close as perfect as she can get, and Betty, of course, tries her best to please her mother. Here in this first image, we see how Betty wants to do something for herself, and her mother isn't very happy about it, and Betty answers, "I do everything for everyone, everything to be perfect, the perfect daughter, the perfect sister, the perfect student. Can I do this one thing for me?" Betty is aware that she is a person who pleases others and tries to be perfect even when it's not something she wishes for. Moving on to the GIF, which is a clip from one of the episodes in which Betty tries to go against her mother's will and tries putting on red lipstick, and her mother immediately scolds her and tells her, "Seduce Scarlet doesn't suit you, dear. Here, pink perfection is more you." Once again, her mother's trying to mold her into what society believes is a perfect lady. Next slide, please. Moving on to where Betty starts to step up for herself and finally takes control of her life and decides that she will not be the perfect lady that society or her mother expects her to be. In this clip, we see Betty as the daring, passionate, and intelligent character she then turns into. She no longer allows others to intimidate her. And we can see an example of this behavior on the top images. On the bottom and middle images, we see how Betty is no longer letting her mother control her. We also see her using direct communication, for she is no longer holding back. And of course, there are multiple other occasions in which Betty challenges society's stereotypes of what it is expected to be a perfect lady. for she loves to explore and solve mysteries, get in trouble, and discover the town's secrets with her friends throughout the show. And this concludes our presentation. Thank you. Any questions?